Following the unprecedented risk associated with Africans' attempts to migrate to Europe and to North America, the United Nations undertook a survey and a research asking Africans if they would undertake the irregular migration route knowing the risk it has posed on them. And this risk included a huge unprecedented number of lives lost in the Mediterranean Sea and many Africans enslaved in Libya en route to Europe. Many Africans said, knowing the risk, they would undertake the journey again. And this message is really strong. We must understand how powerful it is. It means Africans are so unwilling to stay in Africa, they'll rather die getting out of Africa. And when Africans complain of being mistreated around the world, it is this message that they've sent to the world that is generating the lack of respect we experience as Africans around the world. So let's explore this. Africans falling off planes to Europe. It happened with the British Airways. A Kenyan dropped off the plane, a story away. The British Airways fell in London, died. A 10-year-old fell off Air France in Paris and died. Many Africans die in the Mediterranean Sea en route, migrating from Africa to Europe. Many who don't die in the Mediterranean Sea are turned into slaves in Libya en route to the Mediterranean Sea. The United States administration currently is banning Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, from migration visas to the United States. We have Africans demonstrating in Germany because they are being exposed to COVID-19. The German government is not putting in place measures to reduce the spread of COVID-19 for Africans in Germany. There's a disproportionate number of Africans dying from COVID-19 in the UK, for instance, and in other parts of the West, because Africans who migrate to the West live in the poorest areas. They live in close-knit communities. They live in low-cost housing, so they are not immune from COVID-19. Africans are going through major crisis in the West. It is clear and obvious that the grass is not greener for Africans outside the continent, but Africans continue to migrate en masse. The default action for Africans when Africa does not work is to want to get out. But what is disheartening right now is that many Africans have become bold and emboldened in complaining about how they are being treated around the world. What do we expect? We've lost dignity. When we invest our energy into getting other governments and other people to treat us better than our own people, than our own government can treat us, then we've lost dignity, we've lost respect. So when people complain that we are being mistreated in China, mistreated in Germany, in the United States and all, it is a manifestation, it is all a reflection of the fact that we do not respect ourselves and we're not willing to work on ourselves and invest in making our own better. We will rather do menial jobs, enslave ourselves in the West than sacrifice for our own continent. We've demonstrated and shown, we are proving, we've told the world that ours is less, but we expect them to treat us as special when we go to their country. We cannot expect from foreign countries that which we are not willing to give to ourselves. So Africans, here is the deal. Those who are migrating for better life, that route is exhausted. When you get into other parts of the world as Africans, you are seen as a desperate, undignified person who is not willing to sacrifice in their own country to make their lives better. So you're not treated well. Please let me be clear here. Migration is part of the human story, and we all have a right to migrate. Migration is part of human curiosity, where we want to move around. That is a right accorded to us all. But Africans have taken migration to mean that when things don't work in Africa, you get out. Every part of the world, that part you're going to was built on sweat and investment and those who believed in it. So if you don't believe in yours, nobody can respect you. The reason Africans are discriminated against around the world is because Africans have lost their dignity through the desperation with which they migrate to the rest of the world. And you know what is sad? Life is not better in the other parts. Africans are willing to live like paupers in an undignified way in the West, in Europe, even China, than to actually live with more dignity in their own countries. Africans have no problem with doing menial jobs, enslaving themselves outside Africa, but are not willing to sacrifice in Africa to make Africa better. And that is why Africans are suffering discrimination against the world. We must start putting our energy in getting our continent to work, demanding that our government in our continent do well by the continent, by its citizens. We cannot run out of Africa, ignore it, and start putting pressure and fighting, demonstrating in front of foreign countries that they should treat us well, when we have not treated ourselves well or demanded for our governments to treat us well. That is the world we live in right now. The whole identity of victimhood, we need to take it off. It's not working anymore.